Hello, disturbed nerds. Guess who's back? Hi,
Hi,
Caroline. She's
not
back.
dead.
She's not dead. She's alive.
Unless I regenerated like the doctor. You'll never know.
But yes, she's back. And today we are talking about,
Today we are talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
which if you haven't watched, then wow, where have you been? It's only awesome.
But yes, if you haven't seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's online on Netflix. It's great. I watched it full through when I was in middle school and then again in college, and then I just went through it again a third time. So good.
I haven't watched the full series since it first came out, but we watched sporadic episodes when we were in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's basically it. I loved it. We used to watch it when we actually had cable. We would watch it on it was on Nickelodeon. We would watch it on
Mm-hmm.
Nickelodeon. And I'd be like, we're watching this. And be like, no, I want to watch SpongeBob. Well, no, you're not watching SpongeBob. We're going to watch this because this is superior.
I would watch the reruns that would play at like 12
Yes.
o'clock at night. All right, so Avatar: The Last Airbender. Who's your favorite character? Let's start there.
My favorite character. Okay. My favorite character is Suki.
Okay.
I love her. She is tough and strong and she's amazing. And I love her and Sokka's relationship because he's such a dork,
Mm-hmm.
but so badass, but he's often overshadowed by Aang and Toph and Katara because he's not a bender, okay? He's got a boomerang, but he's still awesome on his own right, and I think Suki gets that. I think she sees that. And also, I love Zuko. He's got a great character arc. In the beginning, I despise him. I'm like, I'm gonna beat you, okay? You spoiled little. I can't stand you. But he's got such a great character arc, and him and Iroh are just. Iroh is like that's his
He's
kid.
my favorite. I absolutely love General Iroh. He hurts my soul. I cry every time I watch the Leaves on a Vine episode with Little Soldier Boy song. My heart can't take it, and I know you haven't watched Legend of Korra, so I won't spoil it, but there are some beautiful scenes, and just General Iroh is just absolutely amazing.
He's so awesome. He does everything for his nephew. Like, let's be honest, that's not his nephew. That's his kid, okay? That
Oh
is
yeah.
his kid. That is his son. And he always is there for Zuko and always forgives him. Even when Zuko doesn't necessarily deserve it, Iroh gives it to him anyways, because that's his kid.
Well, that's because he also understands that his brother's an asshole, and
Yeah, he
B,
is.
General Iroh is still beating himself up because his son died in the siege of Ba Sing Se. He blames himself.
Yeah.
So tragic.
Everything's tragic in that show. It's a
That's
kid
true.
show, but strangely, it's very dark at times. I clearly
Watching a
remember.
kid's show as an adult hits so differently because I didn't understand what happened in the room with Aang's teacher and how he had suffocated the air out of the room and killed everyone. For some reason, that just went over my head as a kid.
The part that stuck with me was when Katara goes after the man who killed her mother. And
Yes.
Zuko's there, and it's like this really raw moment because, first of all, we know Katara is a badass waterbender, bloodbender, okay? Like, she's incredible. And she was already incredible even before she got a proper freaking teacher, you know? Like,
Yes.
she taught herself and was pretty damn can hold her own. And then, so the moment where she sees this man who is the reason who killed her mom is just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, is she gonna kill him? And she doesn't, but it's one of those moments because Zuko understands, like he gets it,
Yeah.
but he also gets why she doesn't kill her, kill him. But it's just that's the moment where you're like, well, that was straight up revenge. That's what it was.
Hmm. It's just, it's crazy how dark it is. Like you said, for a kid show, it's exceptionally dark.
It
Kind of
is a
appreciate though, especially Azula's storyline. Let's talk about her a little bit because I seen a post going around that said like, "Oh, Azula deserves a redemption arc similar to what Zuko got," because you really, when you're watching it as a kid or as a teenager, you're like, "Oh no, this hoe is psycho. She's hurting my babies. Like I'm so done with her. Whatever horrible path she goes down and treatment she gets, she 100% deserves it." However, when you watch it as an adult, you're like, the what she went through with her father and with her family, and you really can't fully blame her for how she turned out.
she grew she was her father's perfect little soldier.
Mm-hmm.
She did everything he wanted because if she didn't, then she'd end up like her brother.
Yeah.
And that's why she did it. So I think it was a survival mode, but I also think that she eventually just kind of believed everything and did it because that's what she believed. So do I think she deserves a redemption arc? I don't think there is one for her. I think she's too far gone.
Oh
I
no,
think
I
she's
agree
too far gone.
100%.
It was different with Zuko because we could even before, even when they're little, you can tell that Azula was a little bit more sadistic.
Like, do you know what one of the first signs of sociopathy is? Harming animals, and you see her like making fun of and being mean to the turtle duck. As an adult, I'm like, she's an actual sociopath.
Yeah, like and yes, it could have been, it's probably is some of that can be contributed to the fact that she grew up without her mother and a father who was tyrannical, and that can be a factor. But also, do we do we think that if her mom had been there and her dad had not been a tyrannical asshole, would Azula still be the same? Maybe not. She may be a little. Her mother may have tamed her, may have been able to tame her a little bit, but she may
Hmm.
have just still been the same.
Yeah.
Zuko from the get go, even when you see him when he's younger, you know he's got a very kind heart. He really does. You don't see it when you first meet him, but when you get to know him, you actually realize he's got a very kind heart.
Oh, 100%.
Like, and he's a very compassionate. It's just hidden behind lots and lots of layers.
I mean, what kid doesn't want to please their parent? No,
Exactly.
no matter how badly a parent treats their kid, a lot of times they'll still want to grow up, especially if they absolutely adore them and want to be in that position because Zuko was the successor to the throne. He envisioned himself as the Fire Lord, so he thought that he had to follow in his father's footsteps, and he could only do that by catching the Avatar. So it's
Yeah.
just, you can't really blame him for his actions early on, especially when his father literally burned him.
Right? That was so horrific. But you also got to think Zuko keeps his word. When you first meet him, Aang says, "If I come with you, will you leave the village alone?"
Mm-hmm.
Zuko keeps his word. He leaves the village alone.
And then when he goes in as the Blue Spirit, he protects Aang. He protects all of them, and no one really knew what he did.
Exactly. And it's just and at some point he saves Katara.
Yes. And but she pays it back though, because when they're fighting in the snowstorm and he gets trapped and he's on the verge of death and he still tries to fight Katara because it's what he thinks he has to do. Katara turns around and goes, "I'm a waterbender. It's at night during the full moon during a snowstorm. Do you really think you're going to beat me when you're on death's door?" And instead they save him and bring him to safety. Like, it went both ways.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've watched it, so I can't remember how exactly Zuko becomes a part of the gang, but I do know it happens, and I think they're like surprisingly accepting. But I also
No, they're
think
not. They're not actually. So
they're not.
what happens when he officially becomes a part of their gang is they're at one of the air temples, the one that's upside down, and Aang needs a firebending teacher because the master that he was going to learn under left the picture. So Zuko offers to train Aang, and no one really trusts him,
Okay,
especially since he burns Toph by accident. So there was a lot of time and building that went into
okay,
that
that's good.
trust.
I just couldn't quite remember if it was. I do love that he does join, and I wish they would have like had him join like way in the first season.
Oh, but then you wouldn't have gotten such a beautiful arc.
True,
They had to grow as people.
they did. I don't think Aang grew as a person though. I think Aang is still a little naive.
Yeah, like a lot of people get frustrated and they say that Aang was actually a terrible avatar, especially if you watch Legend of Korra, because Korra's super strong. She's not afraid to injure people. And you also have Kyoshi and the Firebender. So you just have these people who are super strong and not afraid to get what has to get done. And then you have Aang, but people forget he was raised by monks. He's not a fighter. He was taught
Exactly.
peace is the proper way to
Yeah.
go about solving your problems.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with him being leery of hurting people. Like
He's a
I get that.
pacifist.
He's a pacifist. I get that. There sometimes people can't cross that line and that's okay. But I also I understand why he ran
Hmm.
because he was 12, okay?
Yeah.
Like he's was 12. He did cool tricks with airbending and had fun with his friends and then suddenly he's been told he's the avatar and he's like, wait, what? Like
Hmm.
he's 12. That's not something 12-year-olds should be having to think about, and
No,
it's
in the
just
past, they were either raised their entire lives knowing they were the avatar, or they didn't really go into their avatar duties until they were 16.
exactly. But he was so powerful. They're like, yeah, we need to start this now, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna run away because no. And I get that. I feel that because he's a kid, and I think that's
Mm.
what people forget is that he's a kid,
Yeah.
and I think that's also why the love story between him and Kintara always bothered me because he's because because of the fact that he's 12 and she's older
She's
than him.
only like 14 though. There's not
Yeah, I
a
know,
terrible
but
difference.
no, it's not the age difference. It's the fact that kind of the way she mothers him a lot.
Hmm. Well, that's her whole character arc is
Yeah,
that
it
she's the
really is.
mother of the group.
Sometimes the mother needs a break. But
Especially later in the show when he has to fight the Fire Lord and everyone's like, "Oh, we have to train, we have to train, we have to train." And he's freaking out, so he kind of procrastinates and has fun instead, and she gets annoyed with him. It's one of those reminders that he really is a kid.
she's definitely the mom of the group completely.
Yes.
Um, her character kind of annoyed me at sometimes though. She seemed that she acted like she could do everything,
Hmm.
but she also backed it up though. I felt like most of the time when she was like, "I got this," she really did get that. She really does
Yeah.
have that. I noticed that most people when they say, "I got this," they really don't got it. Tara most of the time actually like totally got this.
She was a well, that was one of the things that Avatar The Last Airbender did very well. The characters felt fairly balanced. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Sokka was the comic relief, he was the goofball, but he was powerful in his own right. He became one of the samurai warriors. He learned how to use the boomerang as effective as a lot of benders were able to do. And then you have Aang, the excited kid who is all over the place, but he could buckle down and get serious when needed to.
Mm-hmm.
They were very well rounded, The only one that I felt was that kind of wasn't well-rounded was Toph. She was a great character, and I loved how they showed not a disability but a different ability, and they were able to do it extremely well where a lot
Mhm.
of shows fail.
Yeah, I don't think her character really changed that much. Like you can kind of
Hmm.
see the change in like Aang and Katara and
Yeah.
Sokka and Zuko and even Iroh, but you don't really see a change in Toph's character. Like even I think you even see a change in Ty Lee and May. You see a
Mhm.
change in them too, but I don't think there's like a very big change in Toph. I think Toph is the same as she was in the beginning as she is in the end.
No, there's subtle changes. She does have character growth. She goes from, you know, I have to be by myself. I don't want to join the crew. I'm just here to get away from my parents, to actually caring about them, protecting them, training Aang. And also, one pivotal moment is when she's hanging on the blimp from the Fire Nation, and she has to 100% trust Sokka not to let her go because she has no ground. She can't see anything, she can't sense anything.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to put her entire faith in him. She does grow as a character, it's just not as dramatic as some of the other characters.
Yeah, but words. I like Toph though because Toph is she's abrasive. That's the word I'm looking for. Toph is abrasive.
100%. And I know you haven't watched Legend of Korra, but she doesn't get better with age. I kicked the screen. My bad. But she doesn't get better with
Oh, she's
age.
still abrasive.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
You know, it's kind of funny when you think about the characters and their elements. Because think about it, Toph's Earth, right?
Hmm.
Earth isn't exactly like soft all the time.
Correct.
Earthquakes and shit. And then we all know Zuko's got a temper. He can flare up like that. I can't snap, so he can flare up. Thank you. Um, and then Aang is air, and he's not to
Be
sound
the
punny.
leaf.
He's not to sound punny or anything. He's flighty. Like he
Yes.
goes wherever he does what he wants. He goes where he wants to go.
It's kind of like Harry Potter, where their personalities match their powers a little too well.
And then you got Katara, and yeah, water is calm and soothing, brings life, but also water can fuck you up.
Yeah, 100%.
Tsunami, hurricane, freaking, it can mess you up like
Hmm.
completely. So she's like, yes, I'm totally calm. Also, can totally kill you. What did you think about the blood bending?
I thought it was incredible because I had actually thought that earlier in time where I was like, oh, because as a kid I was watching and I remember learning in school that the body is 65 to 70% water. I'm like, wouldn't a waterbender be able to bend blood? And then it happens, and my 10-year-old mind was just blown. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then I'm like, that's actually really creepy, but it was powerful.
Yeah, I don't think she uses it that much though. Like even though she
Yeah.
can do it, I think it scares her.
Hmm.
So I don't think she uses it that much. I think she uses it like maybe a few times in dire situations, but
Yeah.
I think it freaks her out, which yeah, it is kind of freaky and it's creepy and it's kind of terrifying knowing that you can bend someone's body
Hmm.
because there's water in their body. Bending just yeah, a little squicky.
Yeah, it's definitely out there, but I think it's a cool ability. They go into it a little bit more in Legend of Korra, which I like.
They do?
Yeah.
Do they expand on it or what?
They
It's
expand
okay if
on
you
it.
spoil
They
it.
show not the recesses of it, but how far someone who's truly got the skill for it can take it. It's the same with metal bending. They show how impressive it could be with the right training.
Do you wish we would have like actually like I know they go into it in like the not comics and everything, but do you think do you wish the show had continued on with how they rebuild all of the four nations and everything?
Um, I do, but again, they didn't get the fourth season. That's what that would have been. Because
Yeah.
if you read the comic that was published after it, The Promise, that was season 4 and what it was going to be. They go into it quite a bit in Legend of Korra and what Aang kind of does with everything. He builds a city and he takes care of business, but there's still a lot of problems left.
Well,
I
I
do
mean,
wish they had shown more of the rebuilding.
yeah, but you got to think about it. Like that's like 100 years of bad shit, for a lack of better word,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to change and fix. Okay, the Fire Nation ain't just gonna roll over and show their belly. Okay, some who were tired of the fighting, yeah, they might understand that this was wrong, but others are not going to do that. And just because some Fire Nation people are going to be like, no, this was wrong, we shouldn't have done this, doesn't mean that Earth and Water nations are going to immediately freaking forgive
That does
all
come
of
up
the
in The
atrocities.
Promise. So spoilers if you haven't read it. But basically the Earth Kingdom and the family that we've come to know, they work together and they're trying to take out all the excess colonies, Fire Nation colonies that took up residence in other spaces, especially the Earth Kingdom. And part of the deal is that the Fire Nation retreats all of their colonies. So that way the land could go back to the people it belongs to. However, there becomes a big problem because Zuko goes down and he's trying to figure out what the problem is. There's a colony that's been in the Earth Kingdom for 100 years. Their people are so intertwined at this point that there's really no malice towards the Fire Nation. They've become a whole separate entity. So Zuko and Aang get into kind of a tiff about it of we promised we would remove the Fire Nation colonies. However, it's been 100 years. They've become a part of this land now. You can't just move them. So Aang creates what's called Republic City, a place where all of the nations can develop trading and get along. It still is technically Earth Nation land. However, it's more available to all the nations.
But it's just, I mean, you got to think about it. There's no more airbenders other than Aang.
They also fix that in Legend of Korra.
Yeah, they
Not
fixed
only
that.
with Aang's kids, but they have a patch for it. It gets fixed.
How? I'm never going to get around to
So,
watching it.
Legend of Korra spoilers.
So,
There's a huge battle in the spirit world, and that battle results in a lot of people who are suddenly able to airbend, and they
oh,
become part of the new Air Nation.
feel like that's cheating, but okay.
It was kind of bullshit.
Yeah, that's kind of
They
cheating.
didn't explain it very well. My head canon is that these were people from the Air Nation generations and generations ago, so they always had it in them to be airbenders. It just never developed. But
Makes sense.
then,
I like that. I like your headcanon.
yeah, so whatever was suppressing their gene, I guess, for airbending, once Korra did her business in the spirit world and it released whatever was keeping them from being airbenders
Okay.
to try to create more balance in the world. Because without the Air Nation, there is no balance.
Exactly. Like the whole point is to balance. And you've got 3 out of 4.
Correct. So there's also the case of there's a lot of characters that come up, like Boomy from Aang's past. There's a lot kind of going on, but it's all distributed very well. Like the story has such a natural flow, and there's a goal. That's something that's really missing in Legend of Korra. She has goals, but from day one, you knew exactly that Aang was going to go after the Fire Lord. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. You knew exactly how the story was going to end. So, but it was a beautiful mix of not filler, but intermittent stories that and character development, but enough where you could see how they were going to get to beating the Fire Lord.
Yeah, but what I've noticed with The Last Airbender is that, yeah, there's filler episodes, and I'm going to go into anime right now. The reason why I can't finish Bleach is because of all those filler episodes.
After
And the thing
episode
is,
100, it's all filler. D. Gray Man fell to the same problem. Naruto Shippuden to an extent fell to the same problem. There's a lot of shows that end up in
yeah,
filler hell.
yeah. But the difference is The Last Airbenders, their filler episodes still felt like a part of the story. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was still important to the characters, and the characters still kind of changed a little bit because of whatever happened.
Right.
That's what is missing when it comes to Bleach or Shippuden.
Mm-hmm.
Those filler episodes don't do anything for these characters. It's just a little thing that happens until they
Yeah.
get to the next part. You know?
Okay, then while we're on the discussion, let's talk about the beach episode. I don't know if you remember it very well, but the Zuko and Azula have a beach house and they bring May, Tylee, and they basically go to like a
Oh
beach
yeah, that
party.
episode.
Yeah.
That was okay. Now that was an example of a bad filler episode because
I
I
didn't,
don't think that did anything.
but we got to learn a little bit more about their characters. So, yes, it wasn't a great filler episode.
Well, you guys will learn more about Mai and Tylee.
May.
May.
It's May.
And, yeah, it's May. And Tylee, a little bubbly girl.
Mm-hmm.
And learn more about Azula, but Azula's not like a surprise, okay? Let's be real.
Right.
And I guess, yeah, a little bit. It's still not my favorite filler episode because it seems a little pointless.
Yeah. How do you feel about how they actually beat the Fire Lord, where Aang takes away his bending rather than getting rid of him altogether?
I honestly think that's kind of poetic. I
Mm-hmm.
like that Aang's like, you know what? Let's just take away your bending. Because he's this big, almighty, powerful freaking Fire Lord. Now, guess what? He ain't fire, and he ain't no Lord either. He
Nope.
can't do shit. Yeah, sure, he'll probably still cause some problems not having any bending powers, but
So I liked that Aang took the pacifist route with the Fire Lord because again, raised by monks, it's what he does. However, I felt it was kind of anticlimactic to the whole story. I know it's because there's supposed to be a fourth season. That's not the end of the story. I don't know. I felt there should have been something bigger, more grandiose done. I don't know.
I don't know. Like you said, there's supposed to be a fourth, so something else could have happened. I'm sure a lot of people were not happy about just taking the Fire Lords.
Mm-hmm.
That probably wasn't satisfactory to a lot of people, but I like that it was true to Aang's character.
It was. That I will definitely give it credit for. They never really made any of the characters do something that was particularly out of character.
Yeah, like if Aang would have killed the Fire Lord, I would have been like, I'm confused.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you have him kill the Fire Lord? That's so not Aang.
Yeah. That's more Kyoshi than Aang. Kyoshi would have killed a bitch.
Oh yeah.
Anywho.
You know what I want? I want stories about the other avatars.
Okay, so one, Korra, she does it bad, but I want stories about like Kyoshi as a spinoff because I feel like she just led such an interesting life. I,
Hmm.
you know how Marvel is gonna do the What If series?
Yeah.
I want the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, now that they're no longer working on the Netflix live action series, to create something that's more of a backstory for each of the avatars.
Hmm. Especially Kyoshi and Avatar.
Roku is the Fire Lord,
Yeah.
Firebender.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I want I need something like that. And Zuko's related to him.
Yeah,
I was
it's a
like, oh,
whole.
that's cool.
There's a lot to it, and don't question it because the way that they set up Zuko's family, it kind of seems like a shoe-in at the last minute. I wasn't kind of thrilled. I was like, really? You're gonna make this grandiose connection now? But yeah. Speaking of, the creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender left the Netflix live action project.
Why?
I was reading one of the creators' letter to the fans, and basically they were saying creative differences. There's a theory that they basically wanted to whitewash, and Netflix was like, no, we don't want to whitewash the cast. But I feel like that's not something these creators would have done because of their strict attention to detail and cultural dynamics within the show.
Yeah.
It just that doesn't sound right. It's another popular fan theory is that they wanted to do a more Legend of Korra type story, which is a little darker, a little more focus on the powers rather than the characters.
Hmm.
So maybe they disagreed with that dynamic. They just didn't like where the story was going that they were putting together. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy how we might get two live action Avatar: The Last Airbender materials, and both of them could be absolutely terrible.
Speaking of terrible, we got to talk about the thing.
Do we
Yes, we do. We have to. Okay,
count
so
in?
I remember when the movie came out because Tristan and I, and this kind of is like how Tristan and I were so excited about the Aragon movie that was trash that we disagree on. We were, shush, we were so excited about The Last Airbender, like so excited. We rented it and then we watched it, and I'm pretty sure I threw that Redbox uh, case across the room because that movie was horrible. First of all, they couldn't get anyone's names right.
The names were wrong, the actors and actresses were wrong, the story was wrong, the CGI was wrong, nothing went right, and we didn't get season 4 of the animated show because of that trash movie, and I'm angry.
I didn't know we didn't get season 4 because of that movie.
That's exactly what happened. Because of the
What?
horrible reactions, the producers and the people at Nickelodeon who were involved on the project were like, clearly there's something wrong with this franchise. And we're like, no, you just made a shitty movie.
No, that's so depressing. No, it was so. First of all, so it was funny guy, and he's like, funny. His character was so unfunny. Like his character was like dirty water.
You know the episode where they go see a play? It's a filler episode, but they
Yeah.
go see a play of kind of their lives and everything. I
Yes.
feel like I was watching a worse version than that play.
Oh my God, you're right. It was so bad. It was so bad.
Terrible.
All of the actors were wrong. Everything was just
Oh,
wrong.
everything was wrong.
Like, no, I just can't even. That movie, I would rather almost watch Aragon than watch that movie. And I hate Aragon.
You're so mean to Aragon. It's unnecessary. But yeah, that was just an absolute disaster of a movie, and we need to go back to pretending it doesn't exist. We've discussed it. It's over. We're done with that conversation because there's nothing to talk about other than how bad it is.
Trash, okay?
It had no redeeming qualities.
Nothing. I was trying to think of one
Yeah.
redeeming quality because I try to give all movies like some tiny little sliver, tiny little sliver.
No.
I can't give
Nope.
that movie a sliver, okay? What sliver can I give Aragon? Dragon wasn't bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Or that. I'll give Aragon that.
The CGI was better in Aragon than in Return of the Last
Which is
Airbender live
weird
action.
because Avatar: The Last Airbender was after Aragon, right?
Hmm.
Like, shouldn't it?
Pretty sure.
Why did you go backwards? Okay, Aragon came out in 2006. Yeah, and The Last Airbender came out in 2010.
And no, in 4 years, that should not have happened.
That should no. You should not. Yes, I'm using my chopsticks to emphasize. You should not go backwards when it comes to CGI. You're supposed to go forward. Okay, 2006 to 2010. CGI is not supposed to get worse. It's supposed to get better. What the shit?
I don't know what to tell you.
Do you think that the Legend of Korra focuses more on the powers rather than on the characters?
It's hard to explain. I feel like none of the characters get 100% flushed out. They have backstories, they have goals, they have character arcs. I just feel like it was completely different than Avatar: The Last Airbender, which isn't a bad thing. It's just the characters don't feel as real to me.
Mm.
Like in The Last Airbender, you feel like these characters are each part of you. You could sympathize and empathize with the characters. In Legend of Korra, they feel almost alien to you. Like, I didn't form a connection really with any of the characters.
And I know you said the technology bothers you, so go ahead and rant.
Yes. There is a big jump in technological advances because we see Horse and Buggy in The Last Airbender, and it's about a generation and a half later. They really shouldn't have evolved to like motorbikes and fully motorized cars. There's just a really big leap that I'm not a fan of. I don't think it would have leaped that far forward. It also focused so much on Republic City, the city that Aang put together, that there's so much left of the world and you don't really get to see it except here and there. Like, you see a little bit of the Earth Kingdom, you see a new city that sprouted up made of metal, you see a little bit of the water tribes, but in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you're introduced to the concept that this is an entire Earth full of people, and you understand that.
Mm-hmm.
In Legend of Korra, the world feels a lot smaller, a lot more contained. I wish she had gone more into like the Fire Nation and gone deeper into those worlds, because it just felt so localized on the one city. I wish they had gone into it a little bit more.
I haven't watched Legend of Korra, so I can't give any input on this whatsoever.
You need to. It's on Netflix. And it's a fast watch. It's a quick watch. It's a brilliant show, but at the end of the day, it's a very well done kids show.
It is a very well done kids show. It actually, I don't know if you ever watched Young Justice.
Bits and pieces.
Young Justice is another very good
Yeah.
kids show. And
X-Men, the animated series.
Yes.
That's
From the
kind of
90s.
a similar vibe that I get.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Same. I love X-Men the animated series. So great. But no, The Last Airbender is a very good kid show. Like it does touch
Yes.
on some heavy stuff at times, but it still kind of has like a kid feel to it.
Right.
The depth, you know what I mean? Like yeah, they touch on
They
heavy stuff and bad
they
stuff
definitely
happens, but
wore kid gloves, and I feel like that's because of Nickelodeon. You could tell at certain points that they wanted to go deeper, like with Aang's anguish when he finds out the Fire Nation was destroyed. Like
Air
I feel
Nation.
like yeah, Aang's anguish when he finds out the Arrow Nation was destroyed. You could definitely tell that the writers wanted him to do a little more damage. That's why I think they aged everyone up in Legend of Korra, because they're around 16, 17, and then there's a time skip. So they Legend of Korra is a fair bit darker, but I don't know. It is a really good kids show, and it's developed as such. Like you said, there are more mature themes. It's a little bit darker. It does it well without kind of overshadowing, like
Yeah.
with some of the kids shows today. I feel like it, except for She-Ra and Voltron, I feel like some shows really smooth it for kids too much.
Mhm. Yeah, I get what you mean.
Any last words on the topic, dear?
Not that I can think of. Oh, Zuko and Katara forever, and that's all I'm saying.
You know they don't end up together,
I
Katie.
know they don't, but I like them so much. They have very nice moments. I remember them having some very nice moments that it kind of clicked for me. And then I have problems with Aang and Kintara as a couple.
Hmm.
I like them better as friends, but I also don't think they really needed Katara and Aang's like love story.
Mm-hmm.
I think they tried a little too hard, and I think that's why it came off as awkward.
It did. It really does come off as awkward.
Yeah,
No, I definitely agree. I liked Katara and Zuko together.
that's all I gotta say.
And Zuko does have kids. I don't know in Legend of Korra if they ever mention who their mom is. I'm sure I could look it up, but
Yeah, apparently Toph has kids, and you don't know who their
yeah,
parents are.
no, and it's a running joke that neither of Toph's daughters know who their fathers are.
You see Katara and
Yeah,
Toph though. Yeah,
yes.
you see
Toph,
Zuko.
you only for a little bit, and he's mostly like giving advice to Korra because Aang's also dead by obviously because Korra wouldn't be the Avatar if Aang wasn't dead. There would be no generation pass on. But
Yeah.
basically, she's trying to think what would Aang do, and Zuko's there, so he gives her advice on what he would do and things like that.
Okay.
But General Iroh plays a really cute role because he's Iroh.
Yay.
Who he's spoiler, he's also dead. But when Korra goes into the spirit world, because he doesn't pass on, he stays in the spirit world, which I feel like is very poetic for him. And he's really sweet and cute, and he's my favorite character. All right, Disturbed Nerds, thank you so much for joining us again today and listening to us discuss Avatar The Last Airbender, one of our favorite shows.